Hey, it's Andrew back here at BTORange and Training Center in Conroe, Texas. And today on the bench we have our Trooper Mark III again in 22 mag. We've done a little history video on this gun, and we're going to pull it apart real quick to illustrate some of the differences in this action versus the old style Colt Trooper action or Python action that was in their I-frame guns. This was produced on the Mark III guns. They introduced their J-frame. And then around when they went to the Mark V, it became the V frame at that point, and that was a different gun again altogether. So this is the Mark III. You had the Trooper Mark III, the Lawman Mark III, the official police, the Metropolitan Police, and the officer's model. All were done in a Mark III lockwork variant. And it was the introduction of coil springs instead of leaf springs for the hammer spring in the Colt revolver, as well as the use of sintered metal technology or powdered metal technology in the making of some of the internal parts like the hammer and trigger and whatnot. So let's take it apart and take a look at that lockwork. And I haven't been inside this gun yet. We just got it the other day, so. We'll take it apart together, I guess. So we've got it cleared. We have 6-shot 22 Magnum revolver. Nothing in the bore there. So these Pockmeyer, these are two-piece stocks on these Pockmeyers. So we can just pull it apart here. We're just going to leave the screw in place, and we can see the end. We can see the end of this mainspring coming out here, and we can see there's a small hole right here, which is what we're going to use to capture that mainspring when we get it off. So, like the other Colt revolvers before and after, cylinders held in place here. So these are nickeled screws, and they don't exist anymore. So we have to be really careful that we choose the correct screwdriver bit to fit this slot without ripping out and causing problems with our screwdriver slot, because if we deface those screws, it may be difficult to come up with a replacement. So this has a very tiny spring and plunger that lives in this hollow screw to hold the cylinder in place. So now we should be able to roll this out, move the cylinder forward. Now on a Colt, the cylinder doesn't come apart like a Smith & Wesson cylinder does. So we're going to leave it be for the moment. Well, I say we're going to leave it be for the moment. We can go ahead and pull it partially apart here. There we go. We have our bushing out here. So we went ahead and pulled the cylinder apart. So we have the extractor rod collar, the extractor spring, the crane or yoke, the extractor star. So this comes apart more like the Smith & Wesson than some of the other Colt revolvers, the older style Colt revolvers. So that's now apart. This is the groove for that, for this little plunger rides in this groove right here and retains the cylinder in the frame. So now we have a side plate here on the left side of the gun, retained by two screws. This screw here, this screw here. So pull that rear screw, and then again, this is have to be cautious. When we pull these screws here. So we can just set this off to the side. Now this, just like we did when we pulled apart those older Colt revolvers in another video, there's a spring that lives under here that once this side plate comes off, the cylinder latch is going to be released to move forward. So we're going to try to control that. And instead of prying up on anything, I'd just like to reverse my screwdriver and kind of vibrate it loose like that, maybe a little bit more. You gotta watch this, it's coming out of its. Yeah. It's in, there we go. So this, wow, look there, that's some filth. But as opposed to those older Colt revolvers we had, and here we see that accordion style spring that lives under that cylinder latch on this later gun. This is a circa 1980, 1981-ish gun. So we try to clean this up a little bit as we go. It's got some pretty significant filth in here. And if you notice, it's got like a nylon, some point with, like a nylon bushing right here, or a nylon post that little spring rides against instead of just bottoming out in the back of the slot. So we'll set that cylinder assembly off to the side. The good news is this electroless nickel is fairly robust finish and relatively easy to clean. We'll put that guy off to the side. Here's our lock work here. Now once we remove that side plate, this transfer bar and its attached leaf spring can just come off. It rides on this post right here, and this spring, we put that back in place, it lives like that in the gun. So what it's doing is the transfer bar, when the trigger moves to the rear and the hammer moves forward, it rides in in this keyway here in the side plate. So that is going to come up and actually be the interface between the hammer and the firing pin. Right now the hammer is not resting on the firing pin, but with the transfer bar in place, it transfers literally the force from the falling hammer onto the firing pin, allows the firing pin to come through. Meanwhile, this attached leaf spring is what is tensing the cylinder hand to move forward and rotate the ratchet on the cylinder to advance the cylinder to the next firing position. So this being on the left side of the gun, the cylinder is going to rotate this way. So we're going to remove this. This just comes straight out. If the handspring should break on one of these guns, it is replaceable. It's kind of crimped in place. It's hard to see, but it's kind of crimped in place into a little cutout on the back of this transfer bar. So that leaf spring is a replaceable part without necessarily having to replace the entire unit. So now with that out of the way, we can just remove the hand. The hand rides, and when you go to put this thing back together, it's easy to get them reversed, and you try to put the cylinder hand down here. That doesn't work. That's where the transfer bar goes. The cylinder hand actually goes on the topmost post here. And these posts will come out. That's the post that lived in the trigger right there. This one would come out as well. There's no real need to take them out really. So now we're going to remove the mainspring and the hammer. So we're going to use our handy dandy custom Colt hammer spring removal tool. It also doubles as a Kimber 1911 recoil spring tool. It's a paper clip. We're going to go right in here, and then we're going to release the hammer. We're going to capture that strut. There we go. And that's going to come apart as a unit. If that came loose, it's no big deal. The spring is omnidirectional. There's no right way, wrong way to put it in. But it's going to go back in here, not like this. If you try to put it in like this, it's not going to fit into its socket there in the back of the hammer. So we're going to set him off to the side. Now, we're going to remove the hammer out this way. Now notice this spring right here, this guy. This is the one that's more of a problem to put in than anything else, at least for me. Because this is a fairly heavy wire spring, and the arm of this spring, there's a stud on the back of this trigger that this spring is bearing against, and that's what's giving us trigger return here. This guy's the same as most other Colt revolvers. He just comes out just like that. So the firing pin right here is cross pinned in place right here. It's very difficult to remove that cross pin without marring the finish. So that would you would only do that if you absolutely had to replace that part for whatever reason. Now to remove this guy, the way I like to do it is I like to come in here, take the tension off of that spring here. And sometimes it's easier said than done, particularly if you're trying to remain on camera while you do it. Let's try to do it this way. There we go. So this spring now is sitting on here, and it's still under tension where it is now. It can be removed if you have to remove it if it's broken, but it's fit really tightly on this post, and it's under a lot of tension. So unless I have to remove it, you can clean everything without removing it necessarily. So there's no real point in doing that. So the bolt here, the cylinder lock, or I think Colt calls it a bolt. Smith & Wesson and Colt have different nomenclature for basically the same part in their revolvers. This is either a yoke or a crane, depending on which manufacturer it is. And this is either a cylinder lock or a bolt. So there's just a little spring that lives right here. You can just bring him right out, and that's an omnidirectional spring. Yeah, it can go really either way, it'll work. And then this little dude here will just lift right out. I say it'll lift right out. Yeah. That guy will just come right out. So that's really as stripped as the gun wants to be. The only thing left to remove out of this gun would be this the trigger return spring, the firing pin. There's a small roll pin here if we needed to remove this acro rear sight for whatever reason. There's really not a whole lot of need to do that again unless you break a blade or something. But and then there's a cross pin here for the front sight. Now the problem is it's a domed pin, so it's easy to if you try to remove that pin to replace that sight without cup tip punches, then you'll flatten the end of the sight, and then it'll look unsightly because it's super visible, obviously, when you put it back together. So that's the disassembly of a Colt Mark III revolver. So just to touch base again on what some of these parts are, we can remove this double action hand, or this double action sear right here. There is a spring and plunger that lives underneath it. So you just have to be careful that you don't lose those parts. It just pushes out and it reassembles in reverse. There's no magic to that. But the way these parts are constructed is these are sintered metal. So they are powdered parts. The parts are made out of a powder. This post comes out. Let's keep him there. And then they're kind of pressure and heat makes them into the part, and then they're finished machined and then polished out is the way these guns are made or were made. And then Colt in the Mark V's, they went to cast parts instead of sintered metal. So that's the disassembly procedure on the Colt Mark III. I think Kyle is working today, and I don't think he's ever taken one of these Mark IIIs apart. So this is a super good time for him to learn how to put one back together. So, and plus I enjoy taking stuff apart that he doesn't know anything about, and then letting him figure out how to put it back together. And if he gets into any trouble, we'll be around to help him out and do that. So the Colt Mark III, a quick video, but that's pretty well taken apart. We're going to clean it up and get it ready for the customer, and that's about all there is to that. So if you like what we're doing, hit that subscribe button. Let us know, give us a comment, and hit that notification bell so that you're notified when we post new videos. We try to do that at least weekly, if not more often. And we appreciate you watching, and we'll see you on the next one.